On Yom Hashoah we commemorate the loss of 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis in the Holocaust. But what parallels can we learn from the Holocaust and the fight for equal rights and Jewish freedoms here on the Temple Mount? I bet Dr. Kronfeld has a really good answer.
Exile and extermination, redemption and renewal, service and sacrifice. These are the central themes which have defined the Jewish people since the beginning of creation. For as the Hasidic masters teach us, for every descent eventually results in an ascent. And no descent of the Jewish people can compare to that which we suffered during the Holocaust. It was 8 decades ago, as the smog of war and the smoke of Nazi death camp ovens began to dissipate, that the world came to the shocking and unimaginable realization that 6 million Jewish lives had been lost in a targeted and industrialized campaign of mass murder, the likes of which humanity had never witnessed, nor could have ever conceived of at any time before. Generations of Jews had been wiped from the earth, generations of families, and worst of all, the future generation, countless children were worked to death, burned alive, or even worse. The greatest men and the greatest women of the generation, as well as those who lived a simple, humble, and honest existence, were gone forever. No Jew escaped prejudice. To Hitler, they were all prejudicial. Because the most important lesson of the Holocaust is also the most important lesson we learned from the time when the temple stood. That being, the Jewish community is a singular and complete entity, and all Jews are equal before God, as they were when they attended temple service. And thus, all Jews were equally despised and despicable in the eyes of the Nazis, and therefore killed for their service to God. To understand the Holocaust, a rabbi once told me, is to understand God. And as Jews, we're not meant to understand God. We're only meant to listen, honor, obey, and believe in the bottom of our hearts that the path He forges for us is the right one. And in the end, everything that happens to us is for the good. And although we can never actualize goodness from the Holocaust, we can today begin to understand the role of the Holocaust in the story of the Jewish people and in our fight for freedom of worship and access to the Temple Mount today. Because the Holocaust forced the Jewish people to remember that we were never meant to be diasporic, and that every exile from our homeland, which is our birthright, serves only to return us to the land of Israel, where we can ensure Jewish security, establish a Jewish state, abide by the Jewish commandments, and rebuild a Jewish temple in service to God. The Holocaust forced the Jewish people to once again assume the burden of responsibility for being a light unto the nations, to fight for equality and the rights of all people, not only to be free, but to freely connect to and worship God however and whenever they wish, as they will when we rebuild the third temple as a house of prayer for all people. And finally, the Holocaust teaches us that for every descent, there is an ascent. If the Holocaust represents the deepest and darkest descent of the Jewish people, then the resulting foundations of the state of Israel and the generations who built it, shaped it, and led it through to today represents our greatest ascent. Therefore, we must believe that we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones who will see the third temple in our time. We are the ones for whom the divine presence will once again dwell amongst. Yom Hashoah ve'la gevurah means not only to remember, but to rebuild. And so we remember, but we have also rebuilt. Rebuilt our communities, our homeland, our faith, and now it's time to rebuild our temple. On this day, we stand here on the Temple Mount, and we commit to the promise to never forget. We will never forget those we lost in the Holocaust, and we will never forget our responsibility to build the third temple. And we commit to the promise of never again. Never again will we be victims of a mass extermination or be victimized by the terrorists amongst us who seek our destruction today. And we will once again resume our service to God in the third temple. Because the story of the Holocaust is not just a Jewish story, it's a human story. It's a story about exile and extermination, about redemption and renewal. And it is a distinct reminder that through service and sacrifice, in the name of God, we can all finally be free. Free to access God, free to worship God in the place that He has chosen for us. May we merit to realize this freedom in our time, and until then, may God continue to bless the state of Israel, the Jewish people, and may God bless you.
Today, on Yom Hashoah, we remember the victims of the greatest crime of man against man. The young, the old, the innocent, the 1.5 million children, starved, shot, given lethal injections, gassed, burned, and turned to ash, because they were deemed guilty of the crime of being different. We remember what happens when hate takes hold of the human heart and turns it to stone. What happens when victims cry for help and there is no one listening? What happens when humanity fails to recognize that those who are not in our image are nonetheless in God's image? We remember and pay tribute to the survivors who bore witness to what happened and to the victims, so that robbed of their lives, they would not be robbed also of their deaths. We remember and give thanks for the righteous of the nations who saved lives, often at the risk of their own, teaching us how, in the darkest night, we can light a candle of hope. Today, on Yom HaShoah, we call on you, Almighty God, to help us hear your voice that says in every generation, do not murder, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor, do not oppress the stranger. We know that whilst we do not have the ability to change the past, we can change the future. We know that whilst we cannot bring the dead back to life, we can ensure their memories live on and that their deaths were not in vain. And so on this Yom HaShoah, we commit ourselves to one simple act, Yizkor, remember. May the souls of the victims be bound in the bond of everlasting life. Amen.
On behalf of the 6 million lives lost during the Holocaust, we stand here today on the Temple Mount on Yom HaShoah, and we recommit to the promise of never again, never forget. And we will continue the fight to secure Jewish freedoms here in Israel and across the world.
Amen.